Alright, we get to part 2 of every Power Ranger season ranked. I went over many seasons last time, so make sure to check out that previous video. I'm Rocko from Reamlore, and let's dive in. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. We post videos just like this one on our Reamlore channel. RPM. And here we are again. Power Rangers is on the verge of cancellation, and on the final Disney season we have RPM. Easy S tier. So in this season, the world ends Terminator style when an evil computer virus takes over the world aside from a single city, the domed city of Corinth. Yes, this is an alternate dimension, the first season of Power Rangers to do that. But for a while the creators didn't tell us that, so the insinuation was that every other Power Rangers team was dead. For this season though, it is one of the best. The characters are top notch, the villains are some of the most intimidating we've ever seen, Dr. K is one of the best mentors of the series, and if Power Rangers had ended here, it wouldn't have been a bad way to go out. Its story developments are also top notch, despite the production team switching out near the end and certain story elements changing out. A much deserved S tier. The only critique I could think of is that this is the season where they really gave up on Zord battles. I know this is mostly the Sentai's fault, but the mecha fights are so bad from here till about the last season of Dino Fury. Yes, I am serious. They make the suits way too bulky and slow down the footage of the fight, making it dull and uninteresting. Plus, the Zord designs just got ugly and forgettable from this point until Dino Fury. They're way too slow, barely involve any story, and just feel like something tacked on at the end. Even so, this series is still great. Watch it now. For a while, this was believed to be the very last season of Power Rangers because Disney didn't want the property, which I know sounds weird because they want to own everything. Back then, they didn't like the violence in the show, so they wanted to retire it. Again, in the modern day, they bought Marvel and are now producing the Deadpool movies. How things have changed. As you can tell, Power Rangers did not end because Saban bought Power Rangers back from Disney, and we now enter the Neo-Saban era, or as it has been dubbed, the worst era of the show. But does that still hold weight all these years later? Mighty Morphing Power Rangers, Re-version. We do not start out good because we have Mighty Morphing Power Rangers, the Re-version, D tier. You might be wondering, what is this? It is a re-release of the first season of Power Rangers, but with added transition and effects plastered in to make it more hip and cool. And to tell you, this is bad. They say it was to promote the release of the first official new season of Samurai, but this aired on the ABC network, not Nickelodeon. The worst part is they don't even do all of season 1, they do half the episodes. So what was the point? Just re-release the first season without all the wacky transitions and you get the same effect. So why, you may ask, am I counting this if it's just a re-release of Mighty Morphing? It's because Saban counts it as a season officially. So if they count it, I'm counting it too. The only reason I'm not giving it an F is because it's still the first season of Mighty Morphing with the Green Ranger saga, so you get a little something. But really now, with all the Power Rangers available on streaming or YouTube, there is no reason to ever revisit this. Unless you like wacky transitions. Samurai. We then move into the first proper season of the Neo-Saban era with the first season of Samurai, which I will explain in a bit. And the first season is getting the okay from me. It can have a C. Don't get me wrong, there are tons of problems with the show. The characters can be moronic and annoying and sometimes contradictory. The villains are not good, and the mentor of this show is one of the worst we've ever seen. Plus, they got Bulk back for this season as comic relief, but he almost never interacts with the Samurai team, which makes all of his good bits pointless. With all that though, I think it's okay. It was the first Power Rangers show in HD, so it looks amazing, and Samurai was still really fun. While the characters weren't great all the time, at their core they were still likable, and the villains, while boring, were still threatening. I'm also just impressed they made something this decent so quickly. They had only 6 months to prep and shoot this season before the debut, and that is not a lot of time to film something decent. It was clear that Samurai was going for a much younger audience than the older kids and teenagers watching RPM. At the time, I was a little upset since I was a teen at the time who still loved Power Rangers, but in hindsight it wasn't the worst decision since it brought in a bunch of new fans. So this season is alright. Super Samurai. Compared to its follow-up Super Samurai though, going in the wrong direction. D tier. In the Neo-Saban era, if you didn't know, every season is 20 episodes because of a Nickelodeon mandate, which is bad for Power Rangers since every Sentai season is around 40 episodes. So the creators decided the season would be split up and they would put Super in front of the second season. Not the worst idea ever, but they probably could have just cut out the filler from the Sentai because there is usually a lot of it. Super Samurai is not good. There was a little charm to the first season with the novelty of being in an HD and the fact they made it that quick, but both of those factors were non-existent here. The characters are really insufferable this time around, and for a brief moment we get a more interesting bad guy in the form of Serrator, but he's not around that long. The worst bit in this season that really sucks any enjoyment away I had is both a good and bad thing. In this season, for the first time since SPD, we get a female Red Ranger, Lauren, who is the current Red Ranger, Jaden's sister. The story is that while Jaden fights off the Nihilok, she would perform the sealing spell that will seal away the big bad for good, training her whole life to master it while enduring the fact that monsters were attacking and she couldn't do anything about it. Lauren is the absolute best. Her actress is doing everything right to make us like this character. She's closed off, a bit awkward, and she really just wants the Rangers and her brother to accept her because she couldn't make friends while training. She knows how important her job is, but all she really wants are friends. So do you know what the other Rangers do in response? Jaden leaves the team because Lauren is here to be the Red Ranger and he thinks he's not needed even though he could still help. From there, all everyone can talk and think about is how much they miss Jaden, how great Jaden is, all while isolating Lauren away from them and being like, "You're not Jaden, I hate you." And spoilers, when the sealing spell fails, her one and only goal and job to honor her father's memory, the other Rangers couldn't even be bothered to comfort her. I felt so sorry for her. The fact she got isolated like this so much makes me weep. Now the reason for all of this is because Samurai is just a copy and paste of the Sentai, and in the Sentai Jaden was a complete nobody made to fight the monsters until the real Red Ranger showed up. So it made more sense there, but here it just makes every Ranger other than Lauren look like massive jerks. It's bad. It's not the worst, but it's bad, which is why Super Samurai is a D. Megaforce. And then we get to Megaforce. I think the first season's okay. It can have a C. Yep, you can be mad, but if you go back and watch the first season of Megaforce, there is a lot to like. I mean, the characters, while not great, were likable and had personalities. They didn't really have arcs, but the character-centered episodes were fun. The action scenes were reserved in this season and only picked up at the end, but that is understandable. When I binged this series again years after it came out, I thought it was fine for what it was. Just a fun show that was a back to basics for the series, which is alright since we haven't had teenagers with attitude for a while. We also had this great storyline with Robo Knight, a robot who really can't understand humanity and just wants to stop the monsters from destroying Earth. Through learning about humans from his friends, he goes on this journey to develop and in the end sacrifices himself to save a human's life. I haven't lost my mind, by the way. I know what the problems are. For starters, this is the season that really bunkered down on fart jokes and bad writing. I know they were aiming for a younger demographic, but kids should be getting the best product possible with clever writing or fun slapstick, not gross out humor. Just look at Sonic 3 as something kids should be getting as a standard. Gosei as the mentor is probably one of the worst mentors ever. He's a Zordon ripoff, but only with the basic elements, to explain things and give the Rangers new Zords whenever they need them. I can't remember even one time where he actually gave someone good advice. I like to joke around with Zordon as the strange floating head, but he really cared about the Rangers he was mentoring. He gave them advice, told them not to give up, and said multiple times he never wanted to take life opportunities away from the teens, so when a peace conference or something popped up, he let them leave. That's why his sacrificing in space was so heartbreaking, because he was a great person and felt like a real character. Meanwhile, Gosei just exists to hand the Rangers powers and weapons while also saying your courage and perseverance has unlocked this new power. It was bad. The thing that really made me enjoy this season was its main villain, Vrock. While everyone else was boring or generic, he was a manipulative master, and after Samurai, man was that a welcome change. He manipulated not only his own forces but the mutants on Earth and started his own robot faction to defeat the Rangers. He also showed off he could change modes, which hasn't really happened before in Power Rangers. He's honestly one of my favorite villains in the Neo Saban era, and it boggles my mind they didn't just keep him around for the next season. So all in all, I think there's a good chunk of stuff in Megaforce to enjoy, like Vrock and Robo Knight, while also a lot not to enjoy, like the farts and Gosei. So I think it's okay. Super Megaforce. Then we get to the season I've been dreading, Power Rangers Super Megaforce. F tier, the absolute worst season of Power Rangers in my opinion. I won't harp on this for too long because I have a million things to say about this season for another video, but it's safe to say everyone agrees this is the worst. I mean, some people say Overdrive, but they are wrong. It was supposed to be the 20th anniversary season with Rangers from Megaforce getting the cool ability to transform into legendary Rangers. We would even get tribute episodes featuring past Rangers to help the current team against the most dangerous force since the invasion from in space. Now all of that sounds like the best thing ever, right? Well, spoilers, I don't think this could have gone more wrong. First off, the character and story gets flushed down the toilet. While Megaforce wasn't great, at least we had something there. Here though, nothing. Everything is so inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, and most things we set up in Megaforce get tossed in the trash. The show is just the creators asking how many fight scenes can we cram into each episode. The show is endless fights, and yes, it is an action show, but we're also here for the stories and characters. I mean, if you turn this into a drinking game with how many fight scenes we get, you'd be dead on the floor after 2 episodes. And about the tribute stuff, they just sleepwalk through it as if they didn't even want to do it. Every time they bring up something about a legacy season, they always get the information wrong. And this is information you get if you looked up a Wikipedia page. This is not difficult. It's shameless, trying to cash in on nostalgia from lapsed fans when not putting any effort into the show you're making. Because that's how they advertised it, as fun for everyone to enjoy, fans old and new. It just makes me really mad. Power Rangers is one of the greatest series ever with such a rich history, and it seemed like they didn't care about doing the legacy stuff. They just wanted to cash in on your nostalgia. This whole season is a slog to get through. The only reason anyone stuck around was because there was going to be a legendary battle, an army of past Rangers coming together with returning actors to fend off the Armada. We get to the legendary battle in the finale, and you won't believe this, it lasts about 2 minutes, and it is mostly the Megaforce Rangers fighting off foot soldiers. We waited 2 years for this? Oh, and those Ranger cameos we've been waiting for? All they do is rescue random people in the lead up before showing up at the end to look stoic as they fight the bad guys. What a letdown. They barely talk to the main team when they do show up. That's the point of having a team up, to interact with the new team. Even as a little kid, I was mortified at how bad they screwed this up. The Armada villains are some of the worst this series has produced. Boring, forgettable, and worst of all, not threatening. You swap out Rock for this? As for the characters, they get so little to do, the actors literally fought the creators for more character and personality, and I massively respect them for trying to make the show better, but they were fighting against the elements here. Super Megaforce is a failure in every sense of the word. Failing at being a good show, failing as someone's introduction to the series, failing as a Power Rangers season, and failing to live up to the legacy of this show. Fans of the series like me felt insulted, while the newer viewers got a really bad introduction to Power Rangers, which isn't fair. That's why it gets the much-deserved F. Dino Charge. Thankfully, Saban bounced back with a decent show in Dino Charge, the best of the Neo Saban era. A tier. Dino Charge feels like a breath of fresh air after 4 years of okay to bad showings. The cast and characters are really good this season. Everyone is bringing so much life to the show, which has been gravely missed. Tyler as the Red Ranger was a standout because he was just so great here. He brought so much energy and really made me invest in finding his father, and his romance with Shelby was well handled. Everyone else was a standout as well. Koda being very likable, Riley being a favorite of mine, Prince Philip becoming a hero, and Kendall getting a great arc throughout the show, becoming a Power Ranger at the end. The villains are a massive step up from Samurai and Megaforce. Sledge is a rough and tough bounty hunter trying to get the Energems just so he can marry his high standards fiancée Poisandra. He's a bounty hunter and can easily flip between final boss and entertaining villain, and all his monsters are entertaining as well. To be honest, this may not be as good as I'm making it out to be, but after Super Megaforce, I was so happy Dino Charge was good. Now we can just leave that in the past and move on to better projects. Dino Supercharge. Dino Supercharge is also great, but a slight step down from the last season, so I'm giving it a B. Mostly because we have all these Rangers rounding out at 10, and really only the main 5 get any developments this season. Everyone else gets shoved out as cameos. I mean, it's not like they couldn't develop them. The other 5 barely show up in this season, and a big chunk of this is really silly filler episodes, which we didn't need. I mean, focusing on the other Rangers like Kendall and Xenowing in these filler episodes would have been much better. I know they were limited by the Sentai footage, but it's just a letdown. It's still got that Dino Charge charm though, which is why I still think it's good. On the flip side of Sledge, Heckle is a delight as the main bad guy. His whole arc is great, with him remembering his duty as a protector, and when he was a part of the Ranger team and sabotaging their operations, it was so good. I have no idea why they didn't stretch that out until the end of the show, but that's just me. Heckle was also dealing with his other half, Snide, who is a brute in every sense of the word, just wanting to smash everything, making him a good foil to Heckle. Now the ending to this will make your head spin, because in the finale the Earth gets sucked into a black hole, yes seriously, and the Rangers go back in time to stop Sledge. In the end, they also stop the meteor from killing the dinosaurs, and said dinosaurs survived in the modern day. What? What was going on? After this season was done, they did confirm Dino Charge took place in another universe, but for a while I was like, are dinosaurs just going to be a normal thing in Power Rangers? This wasn't as great as the first season because it didn't advance the Rangers as much as I would have liked, but it's still a great watch. Ninja Steel. We then get to Ninja Steel, unfortunately another step down, because this one is just okay, it's a C. Now I did have fun watching this season, and I did like the cast and characters, but this really boils down to 3 things that drag it down: story, character, and villains. The main story is weak, monsters want ninja stars to take over the world, and the teenagers have to stop them. Move on. There are no big character arcs for anyone on the show, which is disappointing. On the plus, unlike most people, I found Victor and Monty's shtick about winning Victor's 50th trophy very entertaining. Most of the time. I have no idea what person on the production staff thought fart jokes were funny. They were not. I also thought that Mick as the main mentor of the team was great, and seeing him become a Ranger was such a cool moment, giving his actor Kelson Henderson has been in a ton of Power Ranger seasons. The villains are disappointing because they have such a cool theme behind them. They're the producers of a wrestling show. I love wrestling so much. I was pumped when their theme was a wrestling show, but they do not do enough with this concept. You could have so much fun with this, like have the monsters cut promos on the Rangers saying, "They're gonna beat you at WrestleMania, oh yeah." Or you could have one of the Rangers win a championship and they have to defend it against the monsters. The idea is so good, it's never been done in Power Rangers, but they don't do anything with it other than sending a monster out each week. The villains are also boring. I can't even remember the main guy's name, he was so forgettable. He wanted the ninja stars because power, I don't know. Dude, you have a wrestling show. You've already made it big. I would kill for a wrestling show. So overall, it has its good bits and bad bits. It's an okay season. Super Ninja Steel. Good news, Super Ninja Steel is the first season to be an improvement. I'm giving it a B. The characterization and stories are improved massively this season, and it is a bright spot as this is the last season in the Neo Saban era. Thankfully, the reason this season is so much better is because Madame Odious takes over as the main villain of the show. She was always better than her meathead boss, her plans were more interesting, and some of the coolest moments are courtesy of her, like stabbing her subordinate in the back because he failed her. I mean, the rest of this is pretty standard, normal Power Ranger stuff, but what really got on my nerves is that Brody and Levi reunite with their dad after like 10 years, and we never see anything between the three all season. I'm not even kidding, that should be a big story beat, your family being reunited after 10 years apart, but instead is shoved to one side so we can do more filler. What? Still, everything is just better. The writing, the action, the characterization, the stories, the conflicts, it's a step up in every way. Also, I do have to bring up, it is the last season where we see Jason David Frank as Tommy putting on the Ranger suit for the last time. And man is he cool in that special. Yes, it is Tommy worship, but who cares? He got a Master Morpher that allows him to morph between previous Ranger suits. I don't even care, man. That is awesome. Super Ninja Steel, while having a lot of the same problems Ninja Steel had, is still a good follow-up, and I recommend it if you did enjoy the first season. Hyperforce. A lot of you Ranger fans probably don't recognize this one because it isn't the traditional type of Power Rangers season. It's actually a tabletop RPG Power Rangers web series on Twitch, officially produced by Saban. And it is canon, so I watched it. I had a great time as well. They have a great cast, including former Ranger cast members like Bulk and Preston from Ninja Steel, and a bunch of guests from the Power Rangers show. One of the cast members is also Andre, or Black Nerd Comedy, and man was he awesome in this. He was just so happy to be there. He finally became a Power Ranger after interviewing them for years. This is so fun. The basic premise of this is a group of Rangers travel through time and fight a bunch of villains from Ranger history, while also bumping into villains and heroes in their adventures. The characters were great, the storylines were engaging, and I was happy I guessed the main twist villain. Now the only thing that keeps this down from an S tier for me is because of the format. While the D&D thing is fun because it leads to a lot of fun character bits and personality growth and lets them tell a good story with little money, it is kind of a pain to watch in full. Because there are like 16 episodes and they're about 3 hours each with a bunch of padding involved, so it's a bit hard to watch, especially since I'm not that interested in D&D stuff. So I'm giving it an A. I would actually love if Hasbro made a motion comic depicting their adventures for people to digest in a better format. Still though, I recommend it, especially if you enjoy watching tabletop RPGs and anything Power Rangers. Warning though, unfortunately, even though there was a season 2 planned, it was cancelled and it broke my heart. Thankfully, Boom gave them some comics to extend their stories. Unworthy. Yeah, that's right, I'm putting it on the list. Unworthy, in my opinion, is just as good as the main show. S tier. If you didn't know, this is a fan-made series made here on YouTube that is just as good as the main show. It's so good and leagues above everything YouTube has done when it comes to fan films, as we follow a great cast of characters and villains with the best action and phenomenal suits. The storylines are so engaging, even though there's only about 2 hours of content right now. The characters are great and a nice reimagining of our fan favorites. Plus, they got a bunch of Legacy Rangers to cameo in this as well, making it feel even more like the main show. The action is so good too. I mean, sheesh, these guys tried really hard and gave us fights and effects on par with the show. It really makes me feel like I should be trying harder. It deserves the love it gets, and I hope they keep making specials. Go watch their videos right now, you'll be blown away at how awesome they are. Beast Morphers Season 1. The very first in the Hasbro era of Power Rangers, and I'm giving Beast Morphers a B. I really enjoyed this season. I feel like the team finally got creating Power Rangers to a T, and this is just a fun watch. I really enjoyed the characters and their dynamics, including Steel as the standout. He's a robot ranger who has a ton of great and memorable lines. Plus, Blaze and Roxy as human antagonists is something we haven't seen since Dino Charge, and I think I prefer humanoid antagonists. They're just so fun and how playfully evil they are. The fight scenes are also excellent, being the first season in a while to make the Zord battles interesting and tie them into the plot of the show, rather than have them tacked on at the end. I also like how they are tying the Rangers storylines in with their parents. Learning about a character's parents could clue you in on their upbringings. Beast Morphers does that really well as we meet the Rangers' parents, and you can better understand how they turned out the way they did. I mean, this isn't the greatest Power Rangers season ever, but it is good. The character arcs are great, I like the cast, and it's just such a strong season. Highly recommend. Beast Morphers Season 2. Continuing on, I felt like Beast Morphers Season 2 was just as good as Season 1. It also gets a B. Continuing is a good way to put it, because it continues a lot of the plot lines from Season 1, and it is a very enjoyable ride. Now, it wasn't perfect. There were some hiccups, the main one being Blaze and Roxy separate from their dark counterparts, and while the evil versions get a lot of screen time, human Blaze and Roxy don't get anything, and I feel like that was a mistake. Here's a random thought: why not have them share the Ranger responsibility of Red and Yellow with the other Rangers? Like, they can trade off powers if Devin and Zoe can't fight for some reason. That way we can focus on them. Or there were 2 extra Ranger suits from the Beast Morphers Sentai counterpart, so you could have brought those in and made them Rangers. The best parts, however, were with the episodes with Captain Chaku, who was a Metal Hero character, not a Power Ranger, that they brought in, and it gave me hope that one day we'd see a Kamen Rider in Power Rangers again. The twist at the end with Evox will floor you if you're a longtime fan. I won't spoil, but I think it was great, although I would have liked more hints. I just love the story in the show, and I highly recommend it as a strong start for the Hasbro era. Dino Fury Season 1. Dino Fury Season 1 is the first part of the final series on Power Rangers. It's good, but with a few flaws, so it can have a B. Simply put, there is way too much filler in this season. It's actually ridiculous. I think 3/4 of this season are filler episodes and not good ones. Most of it was just things I've heard a million times. Don't take shortcuts, being a leader isn't easy, friendship is cool, yada yada yada. The only new message I did like were the dangers of scam artists taking advantage of teens, which I think is important for young fans to understand, especially in this new age of crypto and social media. Other than that though, I think this season is great. The Rangers are all likable, and they developed a lot throughout these 3 seasons, although honestly this season is a bit light on the character and story. I really like Void Knight as well. Season 2 was his standout season, but here he was just a great bad guy, and his minions were also fun. The finale is also underwhelming. I watched it like 2 years ago and barely remember it, just that Void Knight gets blasted and we think he's dead, but he's not. Even so, I think this season is worth a watch, because the next 2 seasons are extremely good. Dino Fury Season 2, which ties into Season 2. Really good. A tier. Now first I want to mention that this was the first Power Rangers season that wasn't broadcasted on television, but put on Netflix. This was also a massive step up from the last seasons with bigger story arcs, plot twists, great character moments, and villain redemption. Everyone's character on the Ranger team is a standout for many reasons I would go into more in depth if I had more time, but I recommend you watch it for yourself. There is also the development of Void Knight, as the entire previous season he was trying to revive his wife, and when he did, his wife wasn't the same. She turned evil because of the evil energy used to revive her. Void Knight just wanted his wife back. He didn't want to hurt people, they were just collateral, but he turns around to save the Rangers only to be turned into a monster by his wife. There is also a big twist in the story that I will not spoil for you, but it was a great twist, subtly hinted at during the first 2 seasons. I may go over Dino and Cosmic Fury sometime down the line, but for now, check it out for yourself. We also see the return of Lord Zed as a villain of the show, and he is just great. He did appear last season, but the voice and inflections were off. Here though, it is like nostalgia hitting you in the face. He's also really effective because he blows up a planet and would have destroyed Earth if the Rangers didn't get help from the Morphing Masters, and that's a can of worms we won't get into today. It's an all-time great season and I highly recommend it. Cosmic Fury. Here we are, the current last season of Power Rangers and maybe the last ever. Cosmic Fury is getting an S from me. Yep, you heard me, I love this season and binged it several times, and I think it's just a rite of passage that if Power Rangers is on the verge of cancellation, they put in their best work. Lord Zed returns again to become the most dangerous villain the universe has ever seen, being so effective as to take out both Earth, Eltar, and most of the universe. Everything is ramped up from the previous 2 seasons with the characters and arcs being better than ever. There's not enough time here, but everyone is great. We are even joined by Billy returning as a full cast member, and I just enjoy seeing him as a ranger and mentor to the current team. I like the suits too. I know I'm in the minority, but I think these suits are great, and I have no idea why everyone hates on them so much. Maybe it's because the fans wanted the Q Ranger suits, and yes, they're cool, but the reason the team didn't use them was because the suits were dangerous with sharp edges, and they wanted to protect the stunt performers. The one thing holding this season down, however, is the runtime. This is the shortest official Power Rangers season on the list, with only 10 20-minute episodes. Now that's normal for a season to have 10 on a Netflix show, but that means they had to rush some bits and couldn't let some scenes flow naturally. It really should have had 15 or 20 episodes, but we don't have to worry about that. What we got was still great because it was a serialized season. No filler this time. In my opinion, if this is the way Power Ranger ends, then at least they went out on a high note. Those are my rankings for every Power Rangers season. The franchise is in limbo right now, but I hope they continue to produce more seasons of the show. show. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Power Rangers season was. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all later.